Welcome to Newsroom, brought to you by the Insurance Brokers Alliance. As always, today on the panel, we welcome back Karen Arnold.
Hello, Bill.
Always nice to have you here. And Paddy Lewis.
Bill.
So we should be set for some exciting discussion. We were having a bit of a chat just before the show started, and we decided the first thing we need to talk about is a piece of local news, which is whether or not the Invercargill City Council should basically invest in the outdoor stadium, which has been a problem, Karen, hasn't it? I mean, the funding of this thing, first of all, Rugby Southland got into the mire with it, then it's been passed, the ownership's been passed over into a trust. You're a city councillor, you'll be able to tell us where we're up to with this thing. There has been consultation put out, hasn't it?
Well, there's a consultation document has been put out to the public, but I'd like it noted that I actually voted against the consultation document being put out to the public because I don't believe that it was robust enough and had the information that was required. So there's three options gone out to the public to consult on. That closes on Friday, so if you do want to have your say about the future of Rugby Park and the City Council's involvement or not in it, then grab a submission form and be heard. But I'm concerned because I feel that the council hasn't followed its own policies and plans when it's looking at investing in property of this type. Then there's processes it has to follow, investigations it has to do, and my point of view is that the City Council hasn't done it.
Right. And you've obviously said that at the council meeting.
Yeah.
And clearly you can't right here and now say anything about which option because you are bound really to take into consideration as a council of what the
submission process is that we have to listen to the views of the public.
Exactly.
For, against, neutral, but that's what the submission process is. And so as councillors, we should not form an opinion about what we prefer or how we're going to vote.
Good.
But for me, I'm concerned about the consultation document itself.
You're concerned about the document, and I've actually downloaded some of it. You can get it off the Invercargill City Council website. However, Paddy and I can have an opinion, and I'm sure you've got one, Paddy. There's three options there. One is the council does nothing, no involvement, no money involved. Second one is that the council offers Southland Outdoor Stadium $400,000 and they'll pay that on to the Community Trust of Southland. Now, the Outdoor Stadium Trust owes the Community Trust of Southland quite a large sum of money, and in full, that would be in full and final settlement, that $400,000. So the council would give the Southland Outdoor Stadium Trust $400,000. They give that to the Community Trust of Southland, so that pays the debt to them. And the Southland Outdoor Stadium Trust transfers ownership to the council in exchange for the council taking over the debt of approximately $740,000 currently owing to Rugby Southland under the management contract. So this second option is going to cost the council and us ratepayers money. Number three is that the council makes a one-off grant of $400,000 to the trust, Southland Outdoor Stadium Trust, to settle the Community Trust debt, and an ongoing grant of $290,000 per year. If you had to choose one of those three options, which would you choose?
Number one.
Which is the council doesn't pay any money at all.
I mean, I normally clear my letterbox by spraying lighter fluid in it and throwing a match in. And luckily I didn't last week because I received an interesting flyer where someone had put it in, and I don't know how many letterboxes it's been around, but I know a few people who've got them, where it's a little flyer talking about the pros and cons of Rugby Park. It's got a very interesting few points on it. One is, why did Rugby Southland let the management fee to the Southland Outdoor Stadium Trust get so high without resolving it earlier? Mm-hmm. You know, if I lend Karen, if I forego $40 to Karen every week,
yes,
after about 10 weeks, she's going to be coming to me and saying, hey, when are you going to pay some of that off?
Right.
They've let it go to the point where it's got huge. The second thing is, you're saying
Rugby Southland owes that to the trust?
No, the trust.
The trust owes to Rugby Southland. Yep.
So, why has that never been chased up? Number two is that there's been no attempt by either party, because let's face it, I mean, the Outdoor Stadium Trust really was just set up as a front for Rugby Southland.
Yes.
There's been no attempt to look at other revenue streams. A few years ago, I talked to one of the outdoor advertising companies, and said, look, what would happen if you've got this massive expanse of corrugated iron, you've got one of the highest traffic counts in Invercargill going past it every day, what would it cost for someone to rent a billboard on that a month? And they said $10,000.
Goodness me.
There's $120,000 a year.
Yes.
And they've got both sides of the park, as well as the big media tower at Splash Palace now. The other point that was brought up was, why has the community trust lent that money or made that loan when they know that from the accounts of the Outdoor Stadium Trust that it's not a going concern.
It's not really payable.
No. So I think the community trust's got to take a one on the chin there too. But let's face it, this has been through at least 3 annual plan processes, the last 3 annual plans, every time it's been turfed. So now this is just Tim and his mates trying to backdoor.
But if nothing is done, I mean, there's a large sum of money involved, it's possible that Invercargill could lose that stadium.
No. One of the things that's in the consultation document is that it says it'll be the end of the Stags and the end of community rugby. Now, another councillor, and you'll be able to tell me if this is true or not, told me that Rugby Southland actually got up in front of councillors and said there will be, community rugby will still carry on.
Rugby, the NZRFU would continue to support that, but I think there needs to be more information about just what happens with the Outdoor Stadium Trust should it voluntarily go into liquidation. And the information that I've been getting from the public is that if they went into voluntary liquidation, then the liquidator would seek to get the best return for the party, and it's not a case of people going bust or things turning to custard, and that's where my concern with the document is that it sounds as though it's this or that, and if we don't do this, this is what's going to happen, and I don't think it's been properly explored. But I'm not an expert on insolvency and liquidation and stuff, and so as councillors we really rely on the information that we get from council staff, and it's got to be robust. And I campaigned the year before last on the fact that you cannot make quality decisions if you do not have quality information before you. And it sounds really boring to harp on about proper process, but that's what good local government decision making requires, is good quality information, so we can do what we've been elected to do, represent the people, and it's a really hard job to do it when you've got to query the information.
And because the other thing that's not in that document is that there is at least, and the figure that's been knocked around is $2 million worth of deferred maintenance, and that doesn't even take into account earthquake strengthening that might be needed. That's not even mentioned in that document, and that's irresponsible. It's ratepayers are getting hit with between, I think it says in there, between $10 and $40 per week or per month, depending on your property.
No, per year, I think it was.
Yeah, per year.
Yeah, it's per year.
Yeah, it could be that. That did actually come up. I think that came up on City Talk the other week, and the councillors did talk about that then. So,
but that's why. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Earthquake strengthening, deferred maintenance, because Rugby Southland have done no maintenance on the ground. There are so many holes in it, it's not funny.
Well, what do we want, from your point of view, as far as that facility is concerned, should we have that there? Do we want it to keep going?
Well, it will keep going. Who's going to buy it? It's too small to build a retirement village on.
Yeah.
I think it's too small. Talking to Bunnings a while ago, I think it's too small for a big box retail area. Girls High might want it.
It'd be a very nice appendage. Have your own athletic track and stuff. But I think you've identified with that building some problems. Who's going to be able to afford the maintenance on it? And unless it's, and obviously they got into this situation right from the beginning because of lack of usage, lack of money, cash flow in to pay for those debts.
And until they explore every avenue for maximising the revenue from facility, which they haven't.
Yeah.
I think, and Rugby Southland should probably start taking one for the team and maybe forego that debt.
Yeah.
It's a one-off hit to them. Sure, it's not going to make their books look that flash, but it's not going to send them under.
Well, at the end of the day, they had ownership of that place and couldn't keep it going themselves, and the reason the trust took over was because of that, wasn't it? I mean,
the trust took over because everyone was worried, or the Rugby Southland were worried that they were going to be insolvent, and if they were insolvent, that's their major asset. Yeah. Plus, it's also sitting on their books. It's depreciating at the same time as it's sitting there as an asset as well. So, I just think that this has been done entirely the wrong way, and I think it goes right back to the start and until, and what's to stop Southland Cricket and Hockey Southland doing the same thing?
Yeah.
Deciding this is a wee bit too hard for us to maintain. Yeah. Let's get the council to buy it.
How many rugby unions, like the provincial ones, actually own their playing grounds anyway? Because that was obviously the case.
Well, Rugby Southland don't.
Well, they're not anymore, but they did.
Yeah, but that's 12, 15 years ago now.
Well, I don't know if any of the other provincial rugby unions own theirs.
I don't think you can actually look historically at what has gone on, and this is what I learned as a journalist reporting on the development of the Otago Stadium, outdoor stadium, with the closed-in roof. I was working for the Sunday Star Times then, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, they did a peer review of the initial documents, and they were quite strong on the fact that in projecting the future of income streams, etc., you cannot look to the past and what's happened with rugby because it's an ever-changing beast, and we've seen this. I mean, aren't the Highlanders, the franchise, potentially going to be looked at by some Singapore outfit or whatever? So the region doesn't own the franchise, and so you cannot guarantee revenue streams by saying, well, during the past 20 years, this is what's happened, so we project that forward for the next 20. Rugby's just not like that.
No business decision on that.
Well, it's a really interesting thing today. I heard on the radio today on the way in that the English Premier League have sold the rights for the next 3 years to Sky and British Telecom for $10 billion. And it works out to some ridiculous amount, like 20 million. The numbers were too big to even comprehend. But, so that's massive, but they're still filling their stadiums.
Yes.
We don't fill the stadiums because rugby in this country is run by people who aren't really concerned about the fans. They're just concerned about their team, and that's it. The money if Sky cut the cord here tomorrow, sure, someone else would step in, but the rugby union would fold without that income.
And that has been a progressive thing, hasn't it? Obviously, we moved from amateur rugby when, gosh, I remember I was brought up in Canterbury, the stands would be packed. You go to a rugby game, Canterbury versus Auckland or something, you'd be lucky to get in practically. So,
and that's something the rugby union has said, hey, we've got the income, the money coming in from TV, from Adidas, from AIG, from everyone like that, and they've forgotten about the bums on seats.
Interesting comment, Paddy. Yeah. Let's keep talking about not Invercargill City stuff. The Sky City Casino's been in the news, and of course this was promoted by the Prime Minister, particularly, saying this thing's free. All we've got to do is let them put in a whole big pile more gambling tables and gambling machines, and we're getting this wonderful free convention centre. The cost is $402 million. Now they're saying, how many of us really expect that there wouldn't be an overrun? What project of that size goes up without them coming back, revising the price and saying this it's going to cost more? But anyway, now they're talking about between $470 and $530 million. And the Prime Minister's going, well, it could be an eyesore. For me, I'm thinking $402 million and it'll be an eyesore because we're not spending enough on it. Therefore, the taxpayer's got to pay for it. He's saying, well, because it's a bigger and better project than the original one. Well, where did that come from?
He's changed his mind.
Where did that come from?
Talk
to me about it.
He changed his mind late this afternoon.
Did he?
He's backtracked. Bill English came out today and sort of stepped back from the Prime Minister's comments, and just before I came into town to hear, there was news reports that the Prime Minister sort of backtracked and sort of downplayed what his stance on that was.
So that we might not be stumping up 140.
Yeah, and some commentators have been saying, well, okay, if the deal changes, then the government has the right to change what it was offering in return for the convention centre, you know. So if the lolly for Sky City was, you know, extra pokies or whatever, then that's how they could, you know, sort of negotiate. Yeah. So
we aren't dealing with big business here, and these guys are
they just made a big
children.
half-year profit too. Did you see that?
$666 million.
There is an old saying, and my old China plate here will know it. Will know it only too well. Whenever you have government, whether it be central government or local government, involved with a major project, you can guarantee, with all due respect to the quantity surveyors and project managers out there, that the budgeted amount goes up by an exponential.
It must be someone's law, Paddy. It must be a law about it.
Everyone else, the private sector has a no variances policy.
Yes.
Government, central government and local government go, oh, hang on, we can just tap Bill for that. Then another $10 a year on your rates, you won't notice.
Sure,
sounds like rugby park.
It does.
Oh, it does too.
So I mean that's where the problem is, because you know these, and you see it so often with cost overruns in big public sector projects.
Yes.
Even in small ones. I mean, what's the roading bill like?
I know, but this city council, when I was a reporter at the Southland Times, they used to do it in a more cunning way, and it took me probably 3 annual plan processes to work it out. But they start off going, oh, the projected rates increase this year is going to be 13.4%, and I'd go back and I'd write it up going, oh, 13.4%, and then they'd manage to shave it back to 7.6, and you go, yay, only 7.6. Of course, the 4th year I got onto it that they were just started high, and
made everybody feel better.
Yeah, it took me a while to click on. So you know, But I'm surprised at how cynical you are, Patrick.
It must be Wednesday.
It's not like him. It's a bad day.
I know.
So it's very interesting to hear that, actually, Karen, that they are shifting their position. Probably thought it was going to do them a lot of damage.
Bill English, the finance minister, did not back up the Prime Minister, from what I can tell from today's report. So
that would be a first for a while.
Dunno.
Be interesting to see if the opposition actually exploits that. I was interested to hear the comments of the opposition parties, and they're very short and succinct. I think all that Winston Peters basically said was, you know, should the government say, well, that's the finish of the contract, and Winston Peters just said something like, of course they should. That's, you know, go back and renegotiate.
And then he said that the Prime Minister dies his hair.
But just on that, I mean, Andrew Little said, oh, we've got a convention centre being built in Tauranga and we've got a convention centre being built in Queenstown. Well, I think we've got the room for it. I mean, I was talking to a idiot savant macroeconomist on Saturday, and she was saying that, you know, you can fit another 2 million people in New Zealand, so we might need those 3 convention centres.
Or not.
Oh.
God knows Auckland needs something to cover up the horror of Queen Street.
Yes. Yes, you can go online and you can see actually what happens as they build this thing. You see the convention centre covering the skyline. Some people would say that's a jolly good thing. And with that insult in mind, we're going to take a break. Stay with us, we'll be back. Welcome back to Newsroom. We've got news reports of Christchurch property being bought up. It was in the press by, as quoted, wealthy Chinese investors, and I think they bought $5 million worth in 3 days. And obviously, you've got the ongoing housing crisis in Auckland, where the prices just seem to be going up and up and up, and it's really resulted in the governor of the Reserve Bank saying, the more house prices get out of line with historic relativities, the greater a risk of a sharp correction leading to financial instability. And so even he's saying that the situation is getting to the point where it could cause financial instability of the whole country. Is the government sitting on their hands on this one, Paddy? We know that, you know, even couples who are earning reasonable salaries in Auckland now, 2 of them are finding real difficulties getting a first home. We've got average prices there well over $500,000. Is the thing completely out of control?
700,000, I think.
Yeah, 700, just absolutely ridiculous. And it seems like there are a lot of people saying now, we're importing these price rises, unlike any other country.
This is, I mean, it's an Auckland thing. You look at the median house price for New Zealand somewhere around the 490,000 mark. Invercargill, it's about 190. Yeah, it's around 190.
Hovers around 200.
So, simple solution. Move. Got jobs, got housing, 10 minutes to work, you can go home for lunch.
But they don't move, do they? I don't understand why people stay in that situation where you're just basically sacrificing your finances to stay in a town where it takes you half an hour to drive to work.
Well, I don't know if it's ignorance. It could be ignorance.
Well, I don't think Southland's very well promoted myself, but I think blaming it on the Chinese just sort of ignores the fact that you've got and it is really grey shoe wearing window lickers at the council in Auckland who have got this tightly constrained district plan, which means that if I've got, and I saw a case where there was a residential build up to a certain point, there was a guy next door who had 10 acres and he wanted to have it subdivided into residential properties, but it fell outside the council's district plan rules, so he couldn't do it. Completely met it. Couldn't use it for, we could use it for a bit of grazing or runoff, but that was about it. He had no interest in farming it.
Yeah.
And so you've got the stupid council rules, which hopefully the changes to the RMA might help. But you've also got this prescriptive stupidity of having town planners who think they know what's best. And so you have this stupidity of, let's build high rises. Well, Europeans might like living in high rises, and Hong Kongers certainly like living in high rises. But Kiwis, it's the old quarter acres.
Well, of course, the Christchurch Press identified people from China simply because their laws have now changed to allow them to buy, but gosh, it's not restricted to that country.
Well, we all know, with all due respect, we know that Cantabrians are the worst racists in New Zealand. It's a known fact. I just made it up.
No comment, I don't know. You made it up, yeah. Being Cantabrian myself, I have to deny it.
But $5 million isn't that much, is it?
No.
5 million.
Oh, 3 days. It was in 3 days.
Yeah, but we don't know what the average price of the properties were. I mean, did they buy $1 million?
There were figures there, and saying there's a lot of reasons why, and I can understand why people want to come to New Zealand. But most countries have got restrictions on foreigners purchasing land.
We'll take Shania Twain's money and what's his name, Cameron.
Well, I don't think we should have theirs either. I mean, Americans are some of the ones who'll come. They've got some of the biggest investments here. Why should we let them in?
But they own some of our backcountry gold, so I don't know why we get so uptight about the Chinese. I don't think the Chinese are at the top of overseas investors, are they? I think it's people from the UK and Australia.
I don't know about that. I know there's a lot from the United States.
Yeah, but that's
any money coming into the country like that from wealthy people, I mean, it's supply and demand.
But why did you talk about the Chinese particularly?
Because they were the ones who identified, and there's an addendum to this story, which is the main point of it, which I haven't even made yet. And that is that real estate companies, and it said in the press that Ray White Real Estate in particular, are going over and actively promoting the sale of New Zealand land overseas.
Well, there you are.
Yeah, but when I lived in London, there was ads in the press there saying, buy property in New Zealand. It was appealing to POMs. So, I mean, it's always gone on. So I don't.
We have accepted the Commonwealth a bit more easily, though, haven't we? I mean, in any Commonwealth countries, they've been sort of like brothers and sisters, and we've never thought the same way, no matter what part of the Commonwealth. We've always said they could come.
I suppose the flip side to it is, let's look at the Crayford Farms. If Shaanxi Penguin hadn't come in, Penguin hadn't come in, those, they'd still all be sitting around waiting for buyers.
The whole lot? You sure?
Yeah, I think so. They were struggling to break them up. So, I mean, it's the thing. Do we want investment, or do we want to go and be a backwater? Do we want to be the Albania of the South Pacific? Is that really
investment, though, Paddy? People coming and buying up residential property. Is that investment in the country? What we need we need investment in industry.
Yeah, but remember that any of this that falls outside the Overseas Investment Office has very strict rules. So if you had, one person come in and buy $5 million worth of residential property, I'm pretty sure that doesn't trigger it. But we do have strict rules about overseas investment, and we do have an awful lot of inward investment that goes towards creating jobs and investing in the country. I mean, it's really tightened up since it was first brought in. So I think if people want to buy houses, I mean, if I was trying to sell my house and someone from China turned up, or someone on behalf of someone from China turned up and said, "Yeah, we'll pay the asking price."
And we celebrate, at the same time, Southland is celebrating all the international students that are coming to SIT and changing our city's fortune. So you can't have it.
But different issue though, Karen. I mean, housing in New Zealand, particularly Auckland and Christchurch, is a national crisis. And
well, I don't think so. It's their crisis.
So anybody coming in from overseas,
why
are they buying in places like Auckland? And the answer has been, because the property prices are rising there, and they just want a better return on their money.
But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a New Zealand problem. I really don't.
No.
It's like,
it's Auckland's problem, it's Christchurch's problem, and let's not forget that Christchurch is in the middle of a massive rebuild, so property there, I mean, was always going to be under the pump. And in Auckland, really, you've got the other side to it is people's property prices are going up, so someone who's bought a house for $300,000 finds it's now worth $600,000, they've got the extra equity and they throw in a new kitchen. So
and then what happens is that when the bubble, and they say it will bursts, then they've got debt of $600,000 and a property that's only worth $450,000, and that's where it's all going to come crumbling down. And Southland, Invercargill, I remember in the late 90s, early 2000, we went through this where mortgagee sale after mortgagee sale saw houses going for $12,000, $17,000, $26,000. And I know that the home that I'm in now was bought in 2001, $72,000, and I've got a rateable value on it now of like $215,000. Well, nothing's happened in between, really. It's just that the market was really, really low, and people lost. We've been through it, you know, but if people are greedy and that silly program that's come on, Our First Home. Oh, my
I don't watch any of those.
Lord.
They drive me nuts.
Oh.
Drive me nuts.
Well, if any of the ones before have driven you nuts, this would drive you around the bend.
Well, you warned me. Thank you for the warning.
Oh.
Thank you for the warning. Actually, the government must be starting to get concerned. Andrew Little has said that he's called for a register of foreign house buyers.
Oh, that's been called for how many times?
But it says the Prime Minister John Key has not ruled out the idea. So there's obviously some agreement there that they need to know what's going on.
But that's not a new story. That's been talked about for ages.
And that's the problem with it, that it's been talked about. Now they're saying, well, we've got to do something. Perhaps they have to do it. Perhaps they have to get on and do it and actually find out what is going on, because nobody knows how much. I mean, at the end of the day, would we want every residential property in New Zealand owned by someone from the United States, Europe, China, India, or somewhere like that? And I don't think we would. So if the amount is increasing, and we all rent from them, if the number of properties is increasing that's in foreign ownership, don't we need to know about it?
Well, it's only happening, as you say, in Auckland and perhaps Christchurch, but I don't know how many times have these Gold Coast people been across and tried to get the Kiwi dollar investing in the gold.
Yeah, no, I think it's I mean, there's ways around it, and I think the ball needs to be put fairly and squarely in the court of the policymakers at that local level who are holding up the release of land, who are using the district plan, and also, my father built houses for the Benmore Dam and the projects up there. Yep. They used to knock up a house in 4 days.
That's right.
Prefab house. Those are all still standing.
They are. They absolutely are.
Perfectly
they're worth. And what's more, they're worth a lot of money, because they had plans for those houses. You're obviously talking about the Twizel ones or the Otamatata ones. They had plans for them. They had to be built to certain rules. Yep. And even though they were only temporary, they had to be reasonable quality houses. Some of the previous ones on the hydro schemes weren't, but those ones, they're
still all in good shape. And I mean, there's a lot of small companies who are saying, look, we can do
kit set houses.
But then you have the council in Auckland saying you can't build on a section that's smaller than whatever, or you your house you have to have this much green space.
So your
around
answer
your house.
would be there needs to be a total shake-up in how councils are managing basically their authority over where houses are built.
But I don't think you can say councils plural as though it's a nationwide
No,
thing.
it's definitely an Auckland thing. I mean, the Auckland Council is sitting on its hands and not addressing the issue. They're waiting for the government to do something about it, or they're waiting for the money markets to do something.
But they've got a nice new sculpture.
Or they're going to,
oh dear.
Or they're going to, wait for the bubble to burst.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And when you think about that Auckland Council, I mean, they control vast amounts of money. They're actually a very powerful council when you consider the number of population that is actually within their boundaries. Something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. I don't know what. Particularly if you get the Reserve Bank governor saying that when this bubble bursts, this could affect the economy of the whole country. That's my economy, and I'm afraid I don't like it.
The good thing is, I suppose we should say, the good thing is that the banks have been, I mean, they're still lending, but the banks have pulled back quite a bit. And so some of those LVRs and other things have been quite good levers to stop the banks from doing risky lending and things. So,
But then if you can get a 10-year fixed rate mortgage at 5.89 from the TSB.
Good luck with that. I can't wait to see how many they give out.
Again, Bill English kind of seems to be, good old Southland seems to be providing the moderate view here, and he says, asked whether a sharp correction has been the bursting of the housing bubble, Mr English said, well, we'll need to talk to the Reserve Bank about that. All I know is there is no asset price that can keep going up 10% a year forever, so it will stop sometime. Good point. In this case, we're really starting to get more supply coming at speed into the market. Of course, we'd like to be faster. We've gone about as fast as we can, so in the next 3 to 5 years the supply situation in Auckland will change. The Minister said government was doing as much as possible without taking over councils. So that's very interesting, and he says the government's focus was on supply, and it was up to the Reserve Bank to decide whether it would intervene. So there you have it. Housing market. Well, at least we're aware of it. At least we're aware of what's going on there.
But move to Southland.
Yeah, move to Southland.
190,000.
Yeah. And our weather's been fantastic. I think we've probably beat the North Island on a lot of days so far this year.
Our weather's better than Wellington. I lived in Wellington for 10 years. Now weather's better than Wellington, easy.
Yeah.
Oh, our weather's better than the northeast coast of America as well, where they've run out of places where to put their
parts
snow.
of China. The weather's better than parts of China too.
Yeah.
So stay away.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been described as the best kept secret in New Zealand by a number of people who've moved here.
Yeah, well, shh.
Right.
Yeah.
You're allowed to listen, but you're not allowed to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a diversion here now. Right off money and property price and house and whatnot. Very young kids busking in a Christchurch mall.
Oh, they were Asian, weren't they?
I don't know if they were or not.
They were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they were busking. The focus on the singing, really. And at the end of the day, I think they've been trespassed from the mall. Is 5 years old and 7 years old too young for people to be busking, Karen?
They weren't trespassed because they were too young. They were trespassed apparently because people were concerned about their welfare because they were busking for a long time. But again, it comes down to a cultural thing. Grandma was there watching the wee tot not playing the violin very well, but the boy apparently plays the piano or something. And it was either he plays there and gets some pocket money, or he stays at home and practices for 3 hours. So again, you can say, well, my son wouldn't do that. I mean, none of our kids would ever do anything like that. We wouldn't be committed.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm just saying. But, well, would you stay there for 5 hours at the mall?
I thought the grandma had tremendous resilience, actually.
Yeah, no, I just think, again, it's
there was
almost
a question of exploitation,
thing.
wasn't there?
No, there were some busybodies. I don't.
That's what I mean. People were suggesting exploitation.
That whole article, Martin Van Benen wrote that article, and the whole article is filled with anonymous people speaking. Now, it's very easy to say something, and you'll know this, when you don't have to put your name to it. You'll get anyone speaking out on an issue.
It's not about the children's welfare. If they'd been left on their own without, means, but it was just a family's belief that they were well cared for. I think the mall owners, if what's been written is true, no, I think it's wrong. I mean, if that's what's going to get people upset and running off to SIFs.
Well, tell me about how the story was written then. I mean, was it well presented?
I think it was just lazy. There were too many people saying, oh, anonymous sources, or people who didn't want to be identified, or
a little bit sensationalist.
Yeah, it was. And,
and
Christchurch.
they also took photos of the children.
Yeah,
and named them
and
and whatnot, and the press has an obligation to protect children that are under the age of 15, 16 or so. So these kids have been named,
and it's it was a storm in a teacup, really.
And you've got to look at Lydia Ko. Now we will celebrate Lydia Ko as ours, but how many hours did she practice over and over and over as a child her golf? We'll take that and say, oh yeah, no, that's fine because she's a New Zealander now, we'll claim her.
Yeah.
But it's the same difference, isn't it?
Yeah,
she just didn't
exactly.
busk for a golf, but she's busking now and she's doing quite well.
It's interesting that when the media chooses to focus on something, it becomes an issue. And perhaps if they don't choose to focus on it, it's no longer an issue. In fact, there are people sort of saying, like, back to the United States again, saying, well, we're only hearing what the media chooses to let us hear. And so you're seeing, I was just reading about the other day, the growth of non-published, when I say non-print media, where other alternative news media are springing up on the internet. And they're saying, listen, we're going to put all kinds of stuff here which is not normally published in the normal media. Paddy, are you sort of finding that this is this something you spend time looking at with students?
No, we look at the business models, but more you've got the Huffington Post, which grew out of that sort of thing.
It's classic, isn't it?
But the others, the business models just aren't strong enough. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't sustain it, and it comes down to those old news values. What's interesting to someone sitting in their living room frantically thrashing out news stories might only be of interest to a very small audience, and unless you've got that big audience, you can't get it. On the flip side, the story like that, because it was verging on editorialising, it turns people off. So I think there is citizen journalism, and there are alternative news sources, but it's going to be a while before people move away from the mainstream.
Is there a danger with it, with this citizen journalism, that we could be fed stuff which actually hasn't undergone that rigorous test, Karen, of checking it out, checking the source?
No, I don't think, because I think the mainstream media is failing that as we speak. And so we've just talked about article that appeared in the mainstream media, and so I think the days have gone, and what is it, that native advertising is now a real thing that's coming in, where stories are presented as editorial, as independent, but it's paid for.
Yeah. So whereas before you might have the story that says, Karen Arnold has won an award for
being amazing,
sitting at a table in front of a TV camera.
Right.
And that used to be written by a journalist. Now it will still be written by a journalist, but Karen will have paid for that to be placed in the paper. So whereas in the past it might have had advertisement.
It used to have paid advertisement underneath, didn't it?
No.
Now it doesn't. They have to, and the American papers do it reasonably well because they've been caught out.
Yeah.
But it's creeping in here without those riders being put on it.
Okay.
So I think the day of picking up mainstream media publication or watching and saying this is independent, I can trust this. I just don't think you can. There's a whole lot of lazy reporting. There's a whole lot of one source reporting.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was concerned about over Christmas, New Year actually, is the local campaign to have a New Year's party. And that wasn't driven by anyone except one reporter.
Yeah.
And it's those types of things. It's not as though people started writing in and saying, oh, we should have something. It was one person
going out and
asking people,
do you want to have a party in New Year's? Oh,
Thought up the idea.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, it wasn't actual news. It was generated news.
Yeah, and it was, and it was day after day after day. You know, different people, and so it actually wasn't an issue that existed. It was created.
Well, the news media, I've seen this issue arising for the news media being accused of doing that, and I suppose, you know, I mean, this has always happened in third-rate newspapers where whole stories have been made up in order to sell it.
But they're not third-rate newspapers. They're purported to be. You know.
Well, I'm saying perhaps it's some of those ideas are creeping up into the media that we've always formerly trusted.
I think it's lazy. I think it's like Karen says. I think it's just pure laziness.
Right.
Lack of resources as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because the resources aren't there, are they? Like they used to be.
Well, I heard an interesting story today about a very, one of the major newspapers where staff are having to sub-edit their own stories.
Yep.
Now, you know from dealing with students that if someone can't spell in the first instance,
you won't see it the second time. No.
And so you're seeing it creeping in online in New Zealand newspapers more and more as to save money, and this solely comes from accountants. In Fairfax's case, comes solely from accountants running the show and not looking at what's needed.
And yet, for me, one of the things I prided myself on most was presenting a story that couldn't be sub-edited. I mean, that's what you wanted to do. That was your goal.
Yeah.
You know, every word you wrote, you wanted published, and you wanted to present it in a way that a sub-editor would look at it and say, I can't cut it. You know, it's too good the way it is.
She only did one story every month.
It was good. But those are the things. A lot of the experienced journalists have gone now. I mean, I was made redundant from the industry, and a lot of others have been. So we've got a lot of inexperienced journalists writing for our media.
Being pushed into those roles where they don't have, they don't have the experience and they don't have those basic skills.
Yes, and this is not a progressive trend, is it? I mean, we've even seen in the we've seen it happen in the television media and whatnot, with shows being cut back, not so much investigative journalism as being presented to us or anything like that. It's as far as information to the people and quality information, we're not making progress, are we?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, they're not interested. I mean, it's what sells advertising.
Okay.
So that's why you have shows like 7 Sharp and Campbell Live. They're not interested in. They're interested in what's going to buy, is going to keep the advertisers happy.
Which is one reason that we should never ever, let a system like we have with Radio New Zealand ever let that go, or ever let the funding. We should protest loudly, I believe, if ever the funding is cut back for that, because they're not supported by advertising. It runs from a totally different perspective, doesn't it? And it seems to me there still seems to be quite a lot of excellent quality journalism there.
Yeah, there is. Although again, they're starting to try and play to, if you like, set themselves up for sponsorship rather than advertising.
And it's sort of come down to audience numbers, isn't it?
Yeah.
On that interesting note, we'll take a break. Stay with us. We'll be back with topics of interest and a couple of other things. See you shortly. Welcome back to Newsroom. Karen, go to you first. Topic of interest.
Well, it's not a topic of interest as such, but it's something that I don't know. It's sort of being reported, but hasn't been discussed, and I think it's a really cool thing that's happened. And I'm blowing my own trumpet a wee bit, so you know.
She's allowed to.
But I chaired a joint committee last year of members from the Southland District Council, the Gore District Council, and Invercargill City Council, where we met to develop a local approved products policy, and basically that's to do with legal highs.
Okay.
And so there was a draft policy that went out for public consultation, and basically said we're going to have an area within Te Anau, one in Winton, one in Gore, and one in Invercargill where legal highs can be sold.
I saw that reported, yes.
And after we heard submissions, our committee decided that, legal highs had only ever been sold in Invercargill, and should they ever come back onto the market, then we listened to the submitters and we said, no, we're not going with the draft policy. We're not having them sold in Te Anau, Winton or Gore. They're only going to be for sale in Invercargill. we reduced the area within the CBD that they could be sold in. They used to be sold in dairies and suburbs and stuff. If they come back onto the market, they won't be able to. So then we said, well, they can't be, sold within 50 metres of a church or a pub or a playground or whatever.
Yeah.
So it means that there's only about 2 spots in town.
5 square metres.
Yeah, that are already,
Which can only be rented at $5,000 a week.
Yeah. So I think it's really a cool thing that our region is prepared for when whatever wave of new products ever come onto the market.
And just update us on this. Like a lot of us think at the moment that these things have been banned and they won't be back because they have been banned. But you said when they come onto the market, is there a possibility that some of these will come back?
So you can't ban the sale of products that meet testing. Okay, so the government would not ban the products per se if they could be proved to be safe.
Okay.
But the products that had been for sale were deemed unsafe, so they were banned. But now we have to assume that there's chemists somewhere, and boiling up,
I'm sure there are
new substances, which then have to pass testing. So you would hope that if new substances come onto the market, they won't have the effect that the other legal highs did. But if people want to spend their money on it, then it's going to be in a very small, confined area of Invercargill, right throughout the region.
Right.
What are you laughing at?
I looked at the map. Do you know the only place that they can be sold in the CBD?
Go on, tell me.
Grey Power or Reno Tirakatini's office. So Grey Power, if they ever need to make money, they're going to make a killing. Reno needs money for his re-election campaign.
No, I think you got the old map because...
oh no, I had a real good look at the map. I blew it up and I measured it.
No, because I think originally the first map had number 10 starting from their doorway, so we extended it to the fence, and it's got to be 50 metres. So yeah.
So it will be just the police car park then.
Yeah, but
I think you've done a good job. I think a lot of the viewers would agree, actually.
I think that's something that the 3 councils should be really proud of.
I pat you on the back, but I might hurt
you. Hurt me, yeah.
That's right, she's still recovering from the other
assault,
injury.
That other assault,
Exactly. Paddy, we're going to move to you. I know you've got something exciting to share with us.
So many things I could have chosen, but...
well, you can have more than one.
A couple of weeks ago, I arrived home on Friday, as I do, and a wee bit thirsty and thinking, God, it'd be nice to have a beer. And I was getting the rubbish bins in, and it was recycling day, and I went to pull the recycling bin, and I thought, what? Opened it up, it was still full of recycling.
Oh.
Put the lid down, and there's this little tag on it.
Naughty boy.
So some pervert had been through my recycling bin and deemed it inadmissible. Now, one of the children at home had gone out to put a bag of old clothes, like there was, I think there were a couple of t-shirts and a pair of shorts, in a plastic shopping bag in the rubbish. They put it in the wrong bin. Now these 2 bins sit right next to each other. So we've got some fiddler coming round, looking in my recycling bin, seeing that instead of opening the bin next to it, taking it out, putting it in it and writing a note and saying, hey, you left something in there, don't do it again.
But you need to be trained, because you'll just do it next week.
Well, see, the other thing, I looked back into this, and it seems that this whole recycling bin fiddling business is a way to give council employees' children holiday jobs. Because one of the things I saw from last year was that it appeared someone who had a very similar name and similar appearance to a council staff member was going around and fiddling in the bins. So
You've been doing a bit of background research.
I have been doing a bit of background research because I was extremely annoyed that I had to take my full recycling bin back in when they could have just picked up. It wasn't like it was a dead sheep.
You didn't think of swapping it for the neighbour's one?
Oh, I'll tell you what. So I've gone through my recycling bin this week with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, don't leave that in there. No. Unless it's plastic, and then it'll be all right.
No, metal's okay.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of hair in it. And so it should be all good to go, but I'm almost tempted to take the day off on Friday and lie in wait behind the fence, because I'm sure there'll be some pinko who wants to have another fiddle through the bin, and this time I'll be ready for them.
I could actually loan you a periscope or a drill to drill a couple of
I've got
holes through.
I've got a couple of wee holes. I like to keep an eye on the neighbours at night time.
Oh, I see. You're right. Yeah.
When they haven't got the curtains pulled.
Well, I'm sure that's what they're doing. Just training you so you won't do it again. But there must have been a bit of trouble though for them to be doing that.
Oh, they're having terrible trouble down at the recycling.
Yeah, I mean,
it's disgusting, disgusting.
But
you might call them 2 old T-shirts, but someone else might call it, well, were they your old T-shirts?
no, they were not, actually.
Well, they should have been burned, Karen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and that's what I said. I said to the children, and
So you're not allowed to burn them now.
probably not in these words, but I said red bin, rubbish, yellow bin, recycling. Okay?
They might have thought they were going to be dusters or something like that.
You don't put dusters in the rubbish.
Yeah, but T-shirts can be used as dusters. That's how you should have been recycling them.
Or you
Do
can
you dust?
you could stuff them and turn them into cushion covers.
That's
Would have
proper
they been all right if they
recycling.
weren't in a plastic bag?
No, you can't put clothes in.
No
No,
clothes.
no.
Right.
You could have popped them down to a clothing bin or something.
I could have if I'd known they were in there. But when you say to a child, put this in the rubbish, and they get a wee bit confused and put it in the wrong bin, all
You
I'm
should
saying
do it
is that
yourself.
person who had a fiddle
should have done it
could have
yourself.
gone, God, the rubbish truck hasn't been yet, we'll fire that in there, close that down,
could have
write
got-
them a note.
Now, I think you should have said yellow bin. Are they yellow?
I
I haven't
didn't
got one.
give the instruction to
Oh,
put it
right,
in the
yeah.
rubbish.
Interesting. Oh,
I
well.
would have kept it
I
myself
think
actually
next
for
time
days.
you've got some leftover T-shirts, you could think about how you can use them within your own home without throwing them out.
Are you on the
Paddy
Waste Net
solves this
Committee?
crisis. This is serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you're on the Waste Net Committee?
Patchwork.
You're not.
Patchwork.
Not on the Waste
But
Net.
No.
I have got a warning for you.
Yeah.
Don't discuss it in front of your latest Samsung telly, if it's a smart telly, because it could be watching.
No, listening.
Listening. Oh, what listening? You're not watching. Mind you, I've heard people say things about cameras as well. It could be listening to you. Samsung have issued a warning and saying don't discuss your personal matter, have personal conversations here because it could be recorded and it could be passed on to a third party.
They've got a voice recognition set up on their TV, so if you
right.
set that up, then basically...
I have the great joy at the moment of whenever we want to change the channel on the TV, I have to actually physically get up off the couch and go over and push a button.
Oh, that
Really?
sounds a bit poor.
So people who have to...
You've
who
lost
sit
the
there,
remote. You've lost
People
it.
who sit there and go, 52! I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
Like bingo.
lazy buggers, really.
Yeah.
Deserve everything they get. If it can listen to... What's the third party it's going to tell?
Well, apparently it has been suggested it is the company which provides the software which translates your voice into commands for the set. So they could have access to it. So
Excellent. I bet
Yeah.
they're from China. Oh, Korea.
probably Korea. Samsung's Korean.
They're
yeah.
pretty discreet, the Koreans.
They're very discreet.
Very discreet.
But you never know.
No, you might get
It
an
could be
indiscreet
passed on to
Korean.
the NSA or somebody like that.
Because I'm
Combine it
always,
with the other stuff they're listening to on your phone.
I'm always sitting in front of the telly talking about making dirty bombs.
Because I'm just talking to my dog, really, or
Yeah, but
myself.
that's what you're saying to them.
But we didn't even talk about the people in the pub, with the lights on, did we? We didn't even talk about that. The people in the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky
so,
they didn't have one of those TVs.
Well, it didn't help them because it's gone right around the world. We didn't
Crazy
need
stuff.
voices. We just had pictures.
Yeah, but if you'd had the TV there, you could have had the sound effects as well.
I don't think we need to.
We've had suggestions of George Orwell in 1984. You know, I say hats off to George Orwell because he actually did predict stuff like that at a long time before he knew any of this technology was there. And actually, a lot of the things he said
It was the
became
same as the
correct.
Jetsons.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
there you go.
Jetsons.
Pretty amazing.
Can we fly? Have we got flying
No,
cars?
we haven't got that far yet. Oh, we haven't got far actually at all, have we? No, we've got some robots.
In some ways we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
We're not exactly into Transformers yet.
Microwaves.
Microwaves.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But I thought that was actually quite funny that that could happen. It won't happen to me. I won't be having a smart TV for quite some time.
Oh, you gotta have
What
one.
is so smart about them? Is these,
Well,
are
that's
these the
what's
ones
smart.
you can-
That's so smart about them. You don't need a remote.
No, the thing, I've just got a new smart TV and it's got YouTube as an app. It's got all these apps. But you turn on YouTube on the TV and then it pairs with your, say, laptop or your mobile device. And then instead of, so I can look up a YouTube video or
It's,
something on my laptop and say, I want to watch it on my TV, and click the button, and it comes
You've
up on my
basically
TV.
got a very large screen for the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
And if
And
you haven't
apps.
got one, you can plug it. You can buy a device for $100. You can plug into the side
That's
of it, Android
great.
device, and do it. Things have changed.
I've just
Paddy.
got around to working out how to plug in an HDMI.
Is yours a
cable
flat
into my
screen
laptop.
TV or an old CRT one?
It just sits there.
Oh, I see.
So it hasn't got a tube out the back of
No,
No,
it.
it hasn't got the tube
Oh,
out the back.
wow.
Is it coloured? It's a coloured one?
It is a coloured one, and we don't have to crank it anymore. We've got batteries for it.
He's making progress on that
Yeah.
happy note. Thank you so much for watching. Look out for us again in a fortnight's time because we will be back. Thank you to my panel tonight, Karen Arnold and Paddy Lewis.
Thanks, Bill.
See you later.